Hi guys, tonight I want to talk a little bit about slick shearing cattle. Two things. I just want to first apologize. We've been crazy busy with these Texas majors, so we haven't been connecting with you on these Facebook Live videos as much as we used to. I think tonight's real important. Again, we're right in the heart of the Texas majors. We've got two left, Austin and Houston, and then we got a bunch of county shows here after those two big majors. So I just want to cover a few things. I want you to stick with me because I know when I first came down here about 3 years ago, I knew nothing about slick shearing. I didn't know what blades to use. In fact, I know you probably think, it's slick shearing. How do I mess that up? We're just taking all the hair off. A couple things. I did mess up the first one I did. I did it kind of in a bunch of different directions. It looked fine, but it could have looked better, and I left a lot of lines in it. And so there's a few tips, tricks. I want to show you some blades that we really like to use on different kind of colors of cattle. So if you'll stick with me, there's a lot of neat things, and I think there's nothing cooler than a slicked off one. I know some of my northern friends are going to make fun of me for saying that, but they just look like athletes. They're built right, and they look cool, and there's nothing cooler than a really good slick shear. So real quick, when I start, there's several different blades you can use. Right here I've got what we call a coarse blade, and that's a buddy of mine. Jeff O'Leary kind of got me on those. I really like those for certain kinds of cattle. And then T84s are ones that we're going to use a bunch. I think that's good. It's going to take them a little tighter. On slick shear cattle, they have got to be less than 1/4 of an inch. Basically all your blades are going to be, for the most part, less than 1/4 of an inch. Some just look better than others. When we're first starting off to slick one, so we've got one here in the middle that is ready to go to the show. He's been sheared. He was sheared 4 days ago. He could go in the ring the way he is. We've got one that obviously has never been touched, and then this one was sheared down with these about a week ago. And so you can see he's got a bunch of fuzz, and we're going to go back over this. This is going to kind of be our demo calf for tonight, what we need one to look like when we're done. So I would start with this one right here. And so I don't have my back face to you. What I'm going to do with these blades right here is I just want to take all the hair off of this one right here. And the reason I do that is when you've got these blades, we're going to shear down with these and up with these. When you're shearing up, you're trying to get a lot of product off. This is going to do a better job of just getting them roughed out really quick, get all the hair on the floor. And I'm just going to show you real quick how we're going to do that. So we're just going to take this. We're going to go back on that tail head. We're going to go straight down on this calf. You can see we're just putting it on the floor, but we want to make sure we're going down. Why we want to go down is we're going with the grain of the hair. So we want to make sure that this hair is going down. And we're going to do a good job when we go down. We want it to look nice. We want it to look good. We want it to look even. But we're not worried about it just looking perfect this first time. Again, we're just roughing them out with these. Then we're going to come back and we're going to clip this entire calf. We're going to clip it all down, and we're going to come back and we're going to clip with a T84 on this one. And we're going to clip everything up. So just for demonstration purposes, I only clipped a little bit on this calf. I do want to note that this is one of the first things Jay Carr told me when we started slick shearing steers down here. He said if you ever shear one at any point throughout the year, make sure you do the whole calf, or you do it even. So if you, for instance, don't just shear this part and then turn them out under the sun, because this part's going to tan. It's going to look a little different color, and you're going to have a line right here where it doesn't see the sun, and the sun's going to tan this part. And so it's going to leave this and make it look like a different color. And so I would encourage you, if nothing else, just make sure you go to the legs. Make sure you take all that hair off, because a lot of times we like to clip these just to see what's under there, see how their tail head looks, how their top shape's looking. Sometimes throughout the year we'll shear them off. Just make sure when you do that you shear everything. You don't just shear half that calf, because one half's going to be gold and the other half's going to be yellow. The other reason we like to rough them out is sometimes we'll actually tan them on purpose. So we'll take all that hair off, we'll let them out under the sun for certain periods of time, and they'll actually tan and get a little deeper, darker gold. The ones we like to tan are your gold ones, your red ones, those deep dark colored ones. Like these white ones, I like to clip them where they leave a little of that white hair. You can see where I clip this tail a little tighter, it gets to looking a little pinker. We want to make sure that these kind of cattle don't get much sun. They'll get to where they burn just a little bit. You got a question?
Yeah. Jackie Oaks wants to know if all of this is the same for shearing one to start growing new hair for late July shows.
Okay, that's a real good question. What I like to do, if you're just shearing one off to grow hair later in the year, I would shear about to their stifle. I would leave their tail head and their flank. Now tonight we're just talking about ones that show without any hair, so we're taking all the hair off, everything except for this switch, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. If I'm shearing one to show for like the Junior Nationals in July, I'm going to leave their tail head hair, I'm going to leave their flank hair and their leg hair. Everything else can go, but I'm going to shear down, and I don't want to shear super tight. So I'm not going to do much more than what I did here in terms of length. We're going to probably make that look even a little neater and more uniform, because the better you do when you shear one off for the summertime, the better that hair is going to grow back. So that's a real good question. Now, one thing I like to do, so we're going to come over here, and I always like to start with a new set of blades, or at least a brand new sharp set of blades. Like if you don't have a brand new set, just make sure you've taken them and gotten them sharp. So for a couple different reasons, I'm going to use a T84 on this one. Now, what I like to do when I'm shearing one is I like to use 2 or 3 sets of blades. What happens is, as you, in the course of shearing those calves, these blades are going to get hot, and so when you're shearing, that heat from the blade will actually raise that that hide up just a little bit, and that's where you can start seeing some lines. Now, if you follow me over here, I just want to start on this one's belly. When I talked about that first year I sheared one for my wife's brother, and we sheared that calf, and I just came in here and I started shearing like this. I sheared forwards, backwards. I pretty much just went every which way I thought it would take it off. Now, after making that mistake, I like to come in here and I like to start kind of down by the belly, and I like to start in the middle of the calf. And I don't know if it'd be better, maybe if you have room, maybe come over here. But I like to start right in the center, and I like to go straight up and down and do long strokes. And what that does is, so I'm going to make this perfectly vertical, straight up and down. What that does is, if I end up leaving a line, at least it's going straight up and down across this calf and not this way. If you leave lines going straight up and down, it really doesn't look as unattractive, because it's hard to shear one without leaving absolutely 0 lines. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to have a little bit of an overhang here from the other one. You can see about 1/4 of an inch here. I'm just going back up, and I'm making that long stroke all the way to the top. Now, you can see where it kind of leaves a little bit of a line in some spots. Some of that will go away when we rinse it. But if it doesn't, at least those lines are going straight up and down. If we leave a line, say we come in here and we shear this, and then we try to come in here and shear over top of it, sometimes we can't erase that line. So we just want to make sure that we're uniform. That way, if we do end up leaving any lines, it looks pretty nice. Now, with these blades, you have to go against the grain for the most part. So if you get in here and you've got some hair, for instance, there's a colic right here, we may have to come in here and go a little bit sideways. We may have to go a little bit forward, but let's make sure that our long strokes stay straight up and down against the grain again. Against the grain. So to reiterate, we want to shear. A week ago, we took these blades and this clippers and we sheared all of this down. Then we came back with these blades, the T84s, and we took them and we're shearing everything straight up. So the reason I like to start in the middle, I'll do all the way back here and then all the way forward, is again, if we do leave some lines, it's going to look a little nicer. The only place sometimes after I get one washed, and I'm going to shear one because I like to shear everything down, wash them, and then shear everything up. The first place I will clip sometimes before I make my way to that belly is I'll clip their tail and I'll clip their butt. I'm going to get this kind of worked off of there, just because a lot of times a calf's going to, they could get all this messy. If they go to the bathroom, this could just, so if you come back here and just shear this first, then we don't have to worry about. And so I might do their butt. I'm going to come over here and start shearing in the middle. Now it's real important to get everything underneath their belly. You want to get everything down, even around their dew claws. A lot of times cattle don't really love it around their dew claws. A lot of times cattle don't love it around their ears. The one thing I will say that's different about the coarse blades, so we talked about earlier, I'm shearing right now with these T84s. We talked about earlier, we sheared this white one with the coarse blades. It leaves it that hair just a little bit longer. You can see where this is taking it shorter and this is leaving it longer. And what it does is that hair is a little longer, so it's going to look more of a pearl white. Where if I sheared it with this, it's going to look a little pinker. The problem with these is sometimes it can kind of nick the hide just a little bit. So around these ears, because you've got to clip all the hair in around their ears as well. With these coarse, you can kind of nick their hide just a little bit. So even when I do the courses, sometimes I'll come back here and I'll shear their head and their ears with the T84, because you can put this right against their hide and you really don't have to worry about this nicking their hide, piercing the hide. Does a really good job of getting it as tight as you need it without having to worry about piercing the hide. So these do, I really like these. Again, I'm going to come in here and smooth this up. I kind of showed you what not to do there. I'm just going to come in here, take a couple more strokes. It's really important for this to look uniform when you're done. And that's why I like to, again, I can't emphasize enough just staying straight up and down when you're shearing, because it's hard not to leave lines. So just make sure, if nothing else, you're just staying, for that long stroke, you're staying pretty straight up and down. Now when we get to the top, I will, because this hair grows backwards for the most part, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to go forward with that. That's going to be kind of my last deal. So I'm going to just take it from the belly almost to the center of the back, and I'm going to leave that little bit, and I'm going to come back to the top and I'm going to shear that. Now again, I talked about as you go, you want to switch out blades. That's going to do a couple things. You want to keep your blades really well oiled, keep them cool, and then a lot of times I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to swap out blades and keep these from getting really warm, because they will get warm fast. So another thing real quick I want to talk about, again, we're shearing this entire calf from here up. Now, the rule in Texas, and a lot of slick shear shows are this way, you have to find the tailbone. So your tailbone's going to be in here, the actual cartilage at the end of the tail, and you can feel it, it's a hard spot in there. You're going to measure from here up, and from here up you can have 12 inches. So a lot of times when we're shearing, we'll just keep a measuring tape. One of these Solon tapes works really good because it's loose. And we're just going to come here to the end of the tailbone, start our tape measure there, and we work our way up. So right there is 12 inches. Most of the time I come down to about 11 and a half or 11, and that's where I'm going to start shearing that tail. Now if you don't have a tape measure handy, one thing I will tell you is we use a bunch, is we'll just grab one of these. All of the Weaver spray bottles are just a little over 10 inches. So we'll take this spray bottle and you can tell we're pretty dang close. So a lot of times I'll shear right at the top of that bottle just so we know that we got plenty of room, because you can get disqualified if you've got too much hair above that tailbone. So if you got more than 12 inches, they can disqualify you. So again, we need to be 12 inches or a quarter of an inch here, less than a quarter of an inch, and more than or less than 12 inches on the tail. From the tail down, you can have as much hair as you'd like. Now, we usually leave these tails until till show day. We're just going to comb these out until then. I will say, like on these colored ones, I really like to, this one's got an awesome tail. I like to, as we're washing these things throughout the week, we don't usually dry their bodies after we've slicked them a whole lot with a blower, but I do like to blow them out. Their hair is going to get a little whiter. We're going to use some light brightening shampoo to make this look a lot whiter, and then we're going to take that blower and we're going to actually dry these tails, because that's the only hair we really got to work with, and so we're going to make that look nice. Then just to kind of summarize, after we're done shearing one, and again, I just, for demonstration purposes, I just wanted you to see this. Now we're going to come back, and you can see there's some lines here. We're going to come back when we're done, and we're going to rinse this, and that's going to erase some of those lines. Some of that's just from the clipper blade pressing into it. But again, it's really tough to shear one without lines. If we come back in about 3 days, this is all going to look really smooth. It's going to look really nice. Obviously, we left a little patch there as we were for demonstration purposes, but this is going to look really nice. Now, the only thing we really have to worry about is for the next 3-4 days before we go to the show, we've got this really tight, and so we want to make sure that we're not letting them get dry hided. So when there's nothing covering this hide, they have a tendency to have exposure to sun, which little exposure is fine because it's going to make them look a little darker, especially on one this color. But they could get a little sunburnt, they can get a little dried out, and one of the products that I really like is the Aerosol Pro Charge. We spray that on them, just keep their hide really nice and shiny. The other product that I've really liked, because it doesn't have a lot of oil and grease to it, is this hide lotion. Originally it was more of kind of a lamb and sheep product. They're starting to use it a bunch in the pigs. I think it's really good for the slick shear cattle. What I do is I'll actually squirt about half a bottle of this into here, and I'll fill the rest up with water. What that does is it kind of cuts it or dilutes it, and then I'll actually spray it on this whole calf, and then we'll just wipe it with chamois a little bit just to get it to brush in just a little bit. We'll also use, and I don't think I have one with me on the wash rack, but we use our Tailbone brush, and it's actually like a sheep brush, but I use a bunch of those. It's really soft bristled brush. It's not that coarse rice root brush. It's actually like a nylon brush. We'll use that, and we'll kind of brush this hide lotion in. But again, I can't emphasize, you know, I know there's slick shear cattle, hair's not important, but the quality of hair that's there and the hide, keeping it conditioned, can really make you stand out. I know when you get to Houston and San Antonio, when those are on green chips, you can tell the kids that have really done a good job of keeping that hide and hair really fresh, keeping that hide where it's all uniform, where you don't start getting dry spots in areas. So again, I know slick shearing seems like it's pretty simple, basic, but I just hope that a few of these tips and tricks kind of help you maybe take your project to the next level. Really excited. We've had a lot of questions, comments. We've had a lot of people kind of give us a direction on what we can do some of these next videos on. Our next video is going to be on how to ball a tail. That's one of the things that a lot of people have put in the comments. They've messaged us. They want to see how to make a tail ball. And so we're going to do that here coming up with one of our next videos. If you do have any suggestions of videos you'd like to see, things you have questions about, feel free to